Welcome to Playful Beginnings, a podcast about the magic of play therapy for therapists, students, and anyone interested. In our podcast, we'll explore the deeper understanding of play therapy and the skills we use when working with children.
We hope to help you understand the why behind what we do and how it helps kids heal and grow. I'm Dr. Kristi Opiola, a working play therapist and university professor in North Carolina.
I'm Dr. Maggie Parker, a play therapist and professor in DC. This is a fun way to say this today.
Good morning.
Got
Welcome to our podcast because we are Kristi squared today.
Kristi with an I and Kristi with an IE.
That's right. We are excited to have Kristi Perryman on here with us. And if you can hear my dog barking, I apologize. But Kristi is joining us from Arkansas, and she is a professor there as well as on the board for APT right now. Some fun things about Kristi Perryman. She started her career as a teacher and then moved into counseling, specifically school counseling, and then became a counselor educator, where she's been a counselor educator for over 20 years now, and has done some amazing research, in particular in schools, but also been play therapist in a school setting from a school counseling lens as well as a clinical mental health. So we are super excited to have her on our podcast today. Welcome, Dr. Perryman.
Yay!
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And I know I missed a whole bunch of things. What did I miss that I didn't get to share about you?
Please, you covered plenty.
She's the director and founder of the Office of Play Therapy Research and Training.
Yes, at the University of Arkansas.
We have how many articles you have?
Oh,
she started that program at Arkansas, which is exciting and has really made an impact in Arkansas. Is doing some great work in Arkansas, helping to change kind of trends in Arkansas around child well-being and child mental health. And so we are happy to have her here today.
Very excited.
And I'm excited because I will be a new colleague to Dr. Perryman starting in the fall.
Yay!
Yes.
95% excited and 5% jealous. Like y'all are gonna have so much fun. And also I looked and it's 69 peer-reviewed articles on Google Scholar. So we've done a lot of work. So I'm kind of curious, Kristi, first off, thank you for coming. And as we know each other, but we don't get to spend a lot of time getting to know each other's background. I'm curious because you've worked in both urban and rural schools. Have you noticed differences in how you engage, or are there ways in which you need to adapt, or is it kind of the same?
With the teachers?
I think with the teachers, and then I'm kind of curious, I guess, too, in the playroom. I think those are such two big focuses in how are we supporting our rural students?
Yeah. Well, I would say it was very different in a lot of ways. For one thing, when I was the school counselor in rural schools, and both of them, again, they'd never had a full-time elementary counselor. So the school counseling program was mine. It was whatever I made it to be. And so anything counseling came to me. And then in a large district, I was one of many, counselors, probably 100 of us, and where every book I read in a classroom had to be pre-approved. So, but as far as the kids, yeah, I think, I have most of my career has been in title schools. I guess I only worked in one school that wasn't. So I primarily worked with impoverished kids, and I think in rural schools, probably, I'm trying to think about the differences as far as in the playroom. In my rural schools, I had kids that, I did in my inner city schools too, though, that didn't have electricity or running water. But I saw a lot more of that in my rural schools than I did. And I had so many more resources in a city to be able to pull from to help them get water or get, electricity or a place to live, where I didn't have that working in rural communities. And in the rural communities, everybody knew everybody. I went to church with some of the same kids that were at my school, or I was in various things, in the town that they knew me from that. So a lot more unavoidable dual relationships with people. And there were no mental health counselors. So that was another big difference, that 30 miles was the nearest mental health counselor, and most of the kids I worked with were not going to be able to get there. So only seeing them 3 to 5 times didn't feel like an option to me most of the time. So, and I didn't, at the time there was no CPR when I was starting out. Sorry about that. Because and I was always doing parenting programs, but something like that would have been helpful. Or even honestly, something like Primary Project, where I could train some other people to come in and provide services would have been really good. But I mean, we didn't even get interns in those rural schools, or, there were no universities nearby. So, yeah, those are the only things I can really kind of think of as far as differences. I mean, I dealt with very different problems most of the time. Well, but part of that was when I was in two junior highs, at-risk junior highs too. So those were very different problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yes. Yeah, it was. And I loved it. I'd always been an elementary counselor. I didn't go to a junior high on purpose. I was a school counselor during a year where that state, education budget was cut severely. So every counselor that had been hired the previous year lost their job. And so then my director called me over the summer and said, "Hey, how do you feel about junior high? There's a job." I'd love it. And I didn't really think I would. I was scared to death, but I ended up really loving the junior high kids too. So
Yeah, they're
I mean,
fun.
kids are kids no matter their age.
they are, they're taller and smellier and have more creative language, but they're still
It's like they're
kids.
spicy. Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, feel free to cut this out, but I'm going to jump to that's why play therapists are better adult therapists. Because, I mean, it was my students who first brought it to my attention because where I was at previously, we had a clinic. And if they wanted to work with kids, they, had to take the child practicum, in which they also worked with an adult because we required a parent or caregiver to also get services. But some of them would then go take the adult practicum and they would say, "I'm noticing I'm so much better." Gosh, I keep turning this off. So sorry. "I'm so much better with adults then because I've had the kid classes." But of course we are. We're not focused on language. We're focused on nonverbals. And I think we're focused on being attuned because the kid's going to let you know pretty quickly if you're not. So, yeah. So my mentor, Shirley Hendricks, always said, if you can work with kids, you can work with anybody, but it does not work in reverse.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's really true is we pick up on those nuances because that's what we have to do, right? We look beyond just what people are saying, but what they're meaning, even just how we talk to kids if they ask us questions, right? Our initial response is usually trying to understand where the question's coming from and what it is that they're needing in that moment. And so it makes sense that we are more attuned, I think, within the adult space.
I think we come to see, as Bonnie Badnock says, she said to me one time, "Kristi, I work with children every day in adult bodies." And I think play therapists, it's a real empathy builder for me with adults because I tell my students, I can imagine each one of you in my playroom and what you would have looked. I just instantly go there. It's what my brain does because it's my paradigm. But I think it then builds empathy when we can see how this person sitting across from us ended up um, being the way they are because of their childhood and what they didn't get. Usually the relationship they needed, right?
Yeah, I think that's helpful for me to hear right now as department chair. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. So, okay, I'm curious. So you're working in the schools, you're a school counselor, you're all these different spaces. What made you then decide to go get your doctorate and become a faculty?
Well, I'm a first generation college student, so everything I've done has surprised me. and and it's usually been because somebody said, "Hey, have you considered?" You know. And so yeah, it was a wonder I ended up in college in the first place. And then I became a teacher and really did. And I wanted to get a master's because it was the only way really to get more money. And I didn't grow up with money. So I was very motivated to move up the salary schedule as quickly as I could. And the only way other than years was to keep going to school. So when I decided to go get a master's, a lot of people said, "Hey, have you thought about being a counselor? I think you'd be good at that." And I was like, so I either wanted to be a principal or a counselor and took my very first class in my program So I have my play therapy mentor, and then I had my other mentor who I consider sort of my mentor for just life in general, Leon Bradshaw, who was trained by Carl Rogers, and he was my professor for that first class. So Leon was trained by Carl Rogers in Kansas, and then when Carl left and went to California, he followed him and kept working with him, and they remained friends until Rogers passed. And Leon passed a few years ago too, about 5 years ago. But but yeah, my first class was a group encounter class with Leon Bradshaw.
Holy moly,
And
did you meet Carl? Like I
no, I never got to meet Carl.
know
I did not.
Carl, you know,
Yeah. No, because Carl passed. Let's see, what year did Carl pass?
I don't know,
80.
in the
I was,
80s.
I mean, I was still in school, I wasn't in high school probably. In the 80s, I don't remember, maybe 84. Anyway, but that hooked me.
That's
I
so,
didn't
I mean, just being that close to it, right?
Right. Between that and then Shirley having been trained by Gary, I had no idea. But at the time, I do now, obviously. But that first class, I knew this is what I'm meant to be. This is it. I just felt I fit in a way that I'd never felt I fit anywhere before. So from that, then, working in the schools, I get my master's, went back and took the extra classes to get licensed, and then thought, okay, now what? And I was very fortunate because those rural schools paid for they
Yeah.
needed a counselor so badly they would pay for my classes. So I had a lot of life changes and thought I want to move and do something different and start applying for doc programs and got in. And got a graduate assistantship. So yeah. But I went back to school counseling for 2 years after that, primarily because that's where the job was. But I've never regretted it. I had a private practice for 12 years, and that was still where most of my referrals came from those 2 years in the schools. And it helped me you know, uh, become a part of that community. But anyway, that's how I became a counselor educator. So
And that's hard to do after, well, maybe it's just me, but it is hard to become a school counselor after you have your doctorate, right? Because often school districts pay based on your education level. And so they really want you if you're
yeah,
getting you have
it
your
was
doctorate.
hard in a lot of ways. It's not what I wanted to do. I remember thinking I did not go get student loans to go
Mhm.
back and do what I was already doing. But it was so different because that's when I worked in urban schools, which I'd never done. So yeah, so and even though I was depressed about doing it, it ended up being really great. It was a great experience, and I'm really glad that I did it. I mean, a lot of the connections I still have are from those years, honestly. So yeah, it was hard, but and I think there are pros and cons because administrators saw me differently when I went back with a PhD. And honestly, when I was at those two inner city junior highs, they'd gone from having two full-time school counselors to only one. And then I was half-time between them. And they were thrilled to have somebody who was licensed and a PhD because I really did get to do mostly counseling. And they did a lot of the scheduling, which I was not gifted at. So it worked out. I did get to do a lot more counseling. I think they saw me as, oh, she can help us with these kids that we're struggling with. And I think it also helped me, honestly, in dealing with administrators, with kids they wanted to kick out or this, that, or the other. It gave me a little bit of credibility that I didn't feel I got before that, whether it should or not, frankly. But
Yeah, I know that makes sense. Okay. So then, okay. Oh, go ahead. Chrissy, you're muted.
Sorry, someone rang my doorbell, so I muted myself so you wouldn't hear my dog. It's also sad to me, right? Because having a PhD is a privilege and offers you a lot that, even those with the same skill training, because that's really what our master's degree is, that is the finishing degree for the clinical side of it. The PhD is the finishing degree for the education side of it. That sometimes it requires that in school settings to get the credibility you need to do jobs. It just makes my heart kind of sad because we have a lot of skilled clinicians in settings that can't, didn't have the same opportunity to do things because they were viewed differently because they don't have a PhD. It makes my heart sad a little bit.
I completely agree. And I can tell you that I don't feel my PhD was skill building for my counseling skills. I mean, yeah, I did my internships, I learned new things, I worked inpatient, which I'd never done, all those things. But as far as didn't make, I, yeah, it didn't. So I agree, but and I'm probably going someplace you guys don't want me to, so feel free to cut it out. But especially as a woman
Mhm.
working with primarily male administrators, that's where it made a difference. And
Yeah.
I made a difference with some of my female administrators because one of my administrators had a PhD, so she really respected it. But yeah, especially with male administrators, I feel it got me a lot more credibility than it would have,
I
or that I
also,
would have had before.
yeah, I know you said you've always run this way, Kristi, but I think the confidence we have coming out of a PhD, right? And the ability to kind of maybe speak to the research, speak to, the depth that we can speak to, I think also gives us credibility sometimes. And I know I work really hard to help my students have that same language, but there is something that comes with the trials and tribulations of getting a PhD that gives you kind of the bandwidth to have those conversations sometimes. But I would love to see others recognize the master as the skill. They really are our skilled
Yes. I
clinicians.
tell
And
my school counseling students, you are the health professional in your school. And the more you see yourself that way, the more others will. So you need to go in and act it.
yeah, fake it till you make it.
Make
There's
it till you make it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, I still do that, but I think there's also it is a 60 degree or 60 credit degree, right? That's huge. It's not that's not far off from a lot of doctorates either, and recognizing that. But I also think there's something, and Kristi, you had said how you had some experience and how a lot of times students are just kind of are coming in out of their master's, which I did. And I think, and I was telling my students last night, is the beauty of counseling is that you don't age out, right? As long as you're still learning, the more you engage in life, the better you get. There's not like you, as
Yes.
long as you are still wanting to learn and grow, right? I think when you, I tell my students, the minute you think that you have nothing else to learn and that you're perfect, that's when you need to quit. But up until
Absolutely.
you're only getting better is the
Yeah.
hope.
Right.
I feel I'm a much better clinician now than I was right after my master's. And even after my master's, I was, I'm not ready for this. This is why I'm getting a doctorate. Thank God.
Yes.
I wasn't going to be a teacher. I didn't want to be a faculty member. I wanted to be a clinician. And it helped get you that confidence, I think, too. There's something there,
Yes.
whether
Yeah.
it's doing the research or whatever. I mean, it just,
Yeah. And yeah, I keep thinking, the only reason really became a counselor educator is because I love counseling. I love it. I love everything about it. I love learning new things. And that's why I became a counselor educator. I love the process of counseling so much. I love it. And that's why I want to be a counselor educator. I don't think that's the case much of the time, but it was for me. I love what we do. I love people. I love learning about people and understanding them. And so it made me want to teach it
yeah.
and learn everything I could about it. Really. Yeah. And still does.
Yeah. No, it makes me happy. Um, I was going to shift gears just a little bit. So when you started at Arkansas or at your university now, right? So you created this whole new plaything and you developed relationships. I'm sure that listeners, whether they're, I mean, counselor educators or clinicians wanting to go in the schools, if you had any tips as to how to form those relationships when you're going into new spaces, if you're not already within them, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a lot what I described as being a school counselor, coming in and creating playrooms and administrators and teachers being, what are you doing? Because there was no play therapy coursework here. They knew about play therapy. Um, but and but yeah, there was no coursework, there was no focus on kids other than the required child and adolescent class. And part of my coming, they really wanted me because of my school counseling. That
Mhm.
was what, um, but I wouldn't come unless I could start a play therapy program. So that's what I did and just went about. I took the coursework that was already here and adapted it. The child and adolescent class is now our counseling children and adolescents through play, and created an intro to play class. And then after that first year, once I had the coursework developed, I applied to be an approved continuing ed and a program and a center. But when I came, yeah, how did I? Well, I said I wasn't going to come if I couldn't do that because I knew I would not be happy. And so I actually got my PhD here many years ago. And I smile, I've told Kristi this story, but when I came here to apply, actually, yeah, I came here to apply, and the person who became my chair, I'll never forget sitting and visiting in his office. And that's where I asked, well, what about your play therapy coursework or your playrooms? And we don't have that. And when I came back 12 years later, his office became my first playroom. And so I always have to smile about that. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, Maggie, it'd probably be best to ask people who worked with me, but I just came in and did it because I wasn't not going to do it. And I was able to get startup funding, and that's what I used to create the playrooms. I had a very supportive department head at the time. She didn't know anything about play therapy, but I was her first hire. She's now my dean, and she was very supportive of me having what I needed to do research. And so they let me create two playrooms and actually redo our entire lab when I came, because when I came, it was the same furniture, the same disgusting pillows that on those couches I had sat on 12 years before in our lab. But and then I just kept advocating. I think probably once I got the coursework started, they started seeing benefits. So hearing students talk about it, students getting jobs. Our sites at the time didn't have anybody doing play therapy. And I think now it helps our students get work, get hired. But also, I just kept advocating. Here, if you're going to work with kids 10 or under, you have to take the play therapy courses. So all school counselors have to take them. And then if you're community mental health, but you're going to work with kids 10 or under, you also have to take them. Otherwise, you can't do a practicum or internship working with that population. So
Mhm.
that was probably one of the biggest things that I did that really made a difference, because most programs don't have that. And I think it just took years of faculty then starting to see the benefits of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I started hosting our annual conference. That after let's see, I'd been here a year when I had the first one. Gary was my first speaker, and of course we got a lot of people coming because we didn't have a lot of play therapy training in Arkansas. So, starting that off quickly helped too, because that brings attention to the program and the college and the university, which deans and department heads. So yeah, I don't know. I just came in and did it. I always I come in kind of hot. I know this about myself. Um, I just come in and do stuff until I'm told I can't. And that's really kind of what I've done everywhere I went.
Yeah. Well, you make it sound really easy, and the other Kristi does too. It's not something that I've ever been able to do. So I think that you guys might be, I think it's a lot harder than maybe you're letting on, because it's tough to try and convince people and to get them on board. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication and passion and belief in what it is that you're doing. And you both have made that work and helped so many kids as a result of it, which is really cool.
Thank you. I think I'm very determined. I don't give up very easily. And, our greatest strength is usually also our Achilles heel. And it certainly has served me in both ways. But I'm very determined, and I have no doubt that what we do works. So for me, it's just I'm going to do what I do. And as long as I do what I do, people, if I keep doing it, people are going to see the benefits of it. And And you have to, I think it takes a lot of tenacity because you get a lot of flack in the in between, but you just keep doing it because we know CCPT works and we know that people are going to start seeing the benefits.
Mhm.
And then they start sending you kids and then they allow you to have more coursework because your student numbers are growing. You know what I mean? You just keep doing it. That's always been my theory that I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And because I really do believe in it.
Mhm.
And now, we also have a lot of research to back it up. So yeah, I think I've been fortunate. I couldn't have done any of the things I've done anywhere where I worked without some administrative backing. And I've always been able to develop working relationships with my administrators, better with some than others. But I think um, that's been beneficial. But I also every job I've ever had, I come in and say I'm going to do play therapy. This is what I'm going to do because this is what works. And so yeah, but it has been hard. There's lots of bumps, but I just think I can't let them stop me because this matters too much.
Yeah.
I got this little somebody gave me this recently.
Oh, it says act what you do makes a difference. It does.
It does.
Isn't that the best? So I think we just have to keep acting what we do makes a difference because we know it does.
Yeah.
And people,
I remember I remember being at an APT conference and Bruce Perry was our keynote. And he talked about, I might be butchering exactly what he said, but he went to the thing is that we have to stop asking permission to show up at the table. And we
yes.
already have all the support we need to say that we belong at the table. But sometimes we hold ourselves back and we have to start putting ourselves at the table and making the claims that the research supports. And that has stuck with me. I don't know if you remember that, if you were there,
Yeah. Oh,
one of
yeah.
you
I do
guys.
remember that. I'm smiling thinking about it. I have chills thinking about how it felt sitting there listening to it.
Right. And just, we are no longer a young profession and we can no longer, we don't belong and we have to ask permission from the parental side of it. And I'm not saying do that, with harm, but if we have the support we need to say we should be at this table
Yeah.
and we have, yeah, it's just important for us to stake our claim
hmm I've
and
always,
show how our stuff works.
yeah, I think that naivety we talked about for me has also got me a long ways because I believe what I do. And
Mhm.
so I just go in and do it and, and think, well, of course, what else am I going to do? Right. And I
We
think
believe it so heavily. I think
I do.
also I think sometimes what gets our maybe beginning therapist or maybe people who switch careers, it's that subtle questioning that we do of ourselves and the approach that we take. And I was there. I remember being that therapist or that clinician. And we talk differently when we have that subtle questioning. So we don't speak to the same level we do when maybe Dr. Perryman or myself or Maggie are speaking now, right? About what does this mean for us, right? We speak from we know this works. We have seen it work 1,000,001 times. And I know you're questioning if this is going to work. I hear it in your voice. And there's a part of me that I want you to trust me. Right. And sometimes when they can't trust me, I think about, gosh, what has happened that it makes you hard to trust?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how can I show you on a different way that maybe you could put faith in me who has faith in you? Right. Because sometimes you just need that backing. You need that
Yes. Yeah.
additional support system to help push you over.
Yeah, that jump
Oh,
and grow your wings on the way down. I
yeah.
remember watching a student, and back when I was on one side of the, one-way window mirror thing, and they were on the other. And I can remember saying, this was at the previous university I worked at, just trust the process. Trust the process. And it's this, I was always saying that, and the student got really frustrated, and they said, "Stop saying that. I don't have a process to trust yet." And I
Yeah.
said, you are so right. You don't. Can you trust me? If you can trust, just trust me. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to let you break a kid. Promise. It's going to be okay. And so I've learned that me just saying trust the process doesn't always build confidence for them.
Yeah.
And so I started saying, I know you can't, I know you can't trust this shit. And it makes sense. You haven't experienced it. So I'm going to ask that you trust the research and trust me. And, and yeah, but
Yeah.
I've always remembered that because I thought they said, we don't have words. We have to use yours.
Right.
That's okay. That's all
Yeah.
right.
Pretend to be
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Because I'm pretending
I,
to be Gary and Shirley and yeah.
yeah.
And that was one of the I've talked about it here all the time, is one of the things Dee said to me, specifically. We were just talking about toy guns, right? About being shot. And I was like, you, that didn't seem genuine, right? That was an inauthentic interaction. What's going on? And I was like, oh, well, Gary said, she was, oh, I didn't know your name was Gary. And she said, I'm just like,
Right.
and it gave me freedom, because I was okay, because there is a point where you do mimic and you do that. And then when you kind of get to the point where you're able to use yourself and your voice, and
Yes.
I
That's when
think
the magic happens.
it is, and I just got goosebumps. It is that jump, and it's, oh my gosh. And then it's like you're so authentic and genuine and you can experience.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of trust. And I think that that's really scary, especially with the new generation that's so used to being told this is what you have to do in order to succeed, and you have to pass this standardized test and this standardized test. I think it's hard for them to be, okay, I'm just going to trust you. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people to do that. I'm
Yes.
not making it up.
They get hung up on the number of responses and the types of the numbers of responses and instead of being with. And we all started out that way. I mean, I absolutely started out trying to sound Gary and Shirley. I feel you guys probably did the same with Dee and Sue and Gary, right? Until you find yourself in it.
Mhm.
And you learn, and then you learn to, you're going to have some, it's kind of like the research on supervision. You know, we know initially students start off really trying to do everything the way that their supervisor does it and very closely aligned. And then they start getting a little bit more freedom, and then they're going to have a crisis of some sort. And from the crisis is where the learning comes, right? That's where you learn to trust yourself. So it's just part of the, ooh, that'd be good to write on sometime, ladies. The
I mean,
process of creating a play therapist.
oh man, there are so many things that I want to write with you guys about. It's, yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Think about that qualitatively. How fun would that be talking to
Mhm.
therapists? What was your journey? More about the actual process, and then when did your identity as a play therapist really get solidified?
And
Yeah.
talking to beginning
Mhm.
play therapists who've been out practicing for a few years and those who've been doing it a long time, and then thinking about what we know about, you know, therapists always think that they always rate their skills better than they actually are. We think the older we get, the better we get, but that's not what the research necessarily says. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be very interesting.
When I
I was
hope,
also gonna, oh, I
go
was
ahead.
also gonna say that I had a just a visual image of what we're talking about. I had a supervisee that I was working with, and she was really struggling. And I remember we were in a stand tray room, and I said, well, pick a figure that represents where you are today. Right. And she picked this nomad on a camel. The
Hmm.
camel's pack was full. There was, you could see a map, right? And she just threw it on the table and she's like, this is what I feel. I was like, okay, tell me more. She's, I know I have all this stuff you keep telling me I have in my tool bag and all this stuff, but which tool to take out? And you show me this map, but I don't know where the starting place and the end place is. So you keep saying blah, blah, right? But it was such a visual, solid image for me to
Yeah.
see the value of, oh, okay, this is where, this therapist is in their journey, is they're really at that stage where they are questioning everything and they know they have these tools. They don't really know how to use these tools or when to use these
Right.
tools or why to use these tools. And all of that is
Or what
that comes
pockets they
with
fit
time.
in.
Right.
Yeah.
And what bag do I put it back in? And what if I put it in the wrong bag?
Right.
And then what if I lose it? And then does that mean I can't? I mean, there was so much questioning and uncertainty. And yeah, it just, as I hold on to that, I have a picture of it at my desk, just as a reminder to myself of the image that slow my pacing down and make sure I match where they are. And then, be the guide to help them with their camel get to where they need to go, and that
Yeah.
they phone a friend. And we've joked about it. Some of my students and I joked, maybe we need to put a cell phone in your bag so you can phone a friend,
Yeah.
right? And let me be your friend. Call me when you have, just that reassurance
Yes,
that I have
some
enough faith in
reminder.
you. And if you need support, people are here to back you up along the journey. But as you were talking, that's the image of that kept coming in my head.
Yeah. Back to the relationship, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say something like completely different, right? Which is, I think that for our listeners, at least for me, I felt really intimidated by research, but you just experienced us being, ooh, that sounds curious.
Yeah.
And that's usually how, at least how I end up in research and doing different projects is, ooh, I'm curious about that. Um,
Yes.
it's not, at least for me, it's much more organic and curiosity driven, which I think maybe a lot of people, or I don't know how people experience or think about what research is, but it seems from the outside, I thought it was really boring. And really, it's like,
Right.
this is a fun way that I get to hang out with my friends, even if we're just
Yeah.
parenting.
Well,
At
I
this,
have to tell you, as I listen to you all's podcasts, I'm constantly getting ideas. Oh, that's something that we haven't looked at. We should look at that. Or listening to PJ and academics, I'm like, oh, I need to get back to that. There's a lot of work yet to be done. So I get ideas listening to you all the time about more research ideas.
I
I'm
think I think our field needs a place where people can just spitfire ideas at, a little think tank of here's this,
Yes.
like a little consortium of sitting and talking about research and how would that be done and who could do that and
Yes. Who
so
could
that
do
we
it?
can diversify where our research is coming from and that we can kind of expand the window, even if it's, and then for me, I also think replication is incredibly important. We do a lot of novelty studies and we never repeat them. And I think that's
Right.
problematic in our
I
field,
agree.
that we do need to be doing more studies, new population, maybe new
Mhm.
age frame. It's 2026. This study was done in 1996. It's been 30 years, right? Things have changed in our society in 30 years. Is this still relevant? And we don't do a lot of that.
No, and I think I'm all about building research villages. I just don't
Mhm.
think we're meant to work in silos or live in silos. And quantitative research is not my strength, but a lot of what I do needs quantitative research. So I have great colleagues that is their strength. And for some of them, if they're in the counseling field, qualitative's not theirs. Okay, I can help with that. But I mean, also just colleagues, that's kind of the beauty of a university, colleagues from all over campus that have strength areas that I don't, that can help me. And then honestly, those are some of the most fun conversations I ever have. People who know nothing about play therapy, and I know nothing about, my friend who's a statistician in the math department. We'll have these great conversations, and I come up with all these new awarenesses as I'm explaining to her why this finding could have been. Right? Oh, maybe that's why. So I love that kind of research. Those are my favorite dissertations to be on too, honestly. We've brought in all these people with their area, and it just ends up being this fun intellectual conversation in which the student is now the expert on it because they're the one holding all the pieces. I think we should be doing more research that way. I am not at all threatened by saying I don't feel I can do the research that needs to be done alone. Here's my area of expertise. I need yours. I think that's where some of the best research can come from.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah. Well, Kristi, can you think of anything that we haven't asked that is important for our listeners to know?
Or you were hoping to tell us today or share with us today.
I can't think of anything. I've sure enjoyed the conversation. I hope some of it was beneficial to others to hear, but it's been a joy and an honor to be with both of you and to have been asked to be on this. And I'm just so grateful you're doing this. This is a great service you're providing. You know, students listen to you, play therapists listen to you, and I'm really grateful for what you're doing.
Thank you. That means a lot. I yes, you're such an important big part of my play therapy life. And so the fact that I even get to talk to you for an hour, but that you think something I do is cool.
Seriously, I think it's amazing. I refer parents to it. I mean, it's just, I'm so glad and grateful that you're doing it. Keep doing it. We need more of it. And my heart's smiling that I'm a part of your play therapy life. So thank you for that.
I love it. Okay, well, thank you so much. For our listeners, please go ahead and subscribe. You can contact us at info@playtherapyspace.com or Maggie@playtherapyspace.com or Kristi@playtherapyspace.com. Follow us on socials, the Play Therapy Space on Instagram. We're also on YouTube and Facebook. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, hold on. I'm going to